Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamson Entertainment. Welcome to the conversation. Just before we get started, there are many ways you can help. You can like and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. But most importantly, please share this video. Get the word out there as a community. We can talk about all the things that we love. Today on Throwback Thursday, and for the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at the adaptations of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson ones, to be specific. There will be a week break between them because I will be on vacation. I'll also say before I get into it, I've not read The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I know. They are on a very long list of books I want to read. So unfortunately, I can't actually speak as to the adaptation of these movies. I have a little bit of knowledge, but not enough to actually speak on it confidently. Especially the Hobbit movies. I've only seen them once. I saw them in the theaters. I'm going to be reviewing the extended edition of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And for the most part, I'm going to be reviewing them just as movies. So we're starting off with The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, or as I like to call it, A Wizard, a Hobbit, and the 13 Dwarves. Starring Ian McKellen, Martin Freeman, Richard Armitage, Ken Scott, Graham McTavish, William Kershaw, James Nesbitt, Stephen Hunter, Dean O'Gorman, Aidan Turner, John Callan, Peter Hambleton, Jed Brophy, Mark Hadlow, Adam Brown, Ian Holm, Elijah Wood, Hugo Weaving, Kate Blanchett, Christopher Lee, Andy Serkis, Sylvester McCoy, Manu Bennett, Barry Humphries, and Benedict Cumberbatch. I know it's a huge cast. But this cast is also stellar. They bring the fantastical world of J.R.R. Tolkien to life. That with the guidance of Peter Jackson and the masterful music of Howard Shore. So the movie starts out with older Bilbo Baggins. This is played by Ian Holmes. The Hobbit movies came out after Lord of the Rings, so Ian Holmes is reprising the role of Bilbo, along with Elijah Wood reprising his role of Frodo. This part of the movie is to take place merely moments before the hobbits are introduced in the Lord of the Rings movies that happened prior. Now, to my knowledge, Peter Jackson always intended to make the Hobbit movie. I don't know if he intended it to make it 1, 2, or 3, which it ended up being. I do know the studio interfered because the Hobbit, I would say it's a soft prequel to the Lord of the Rings. To my knowledge, Tolkien wrote the Hobbit, and the earlier editions weren't really tied to Lord of the Rings. I believe he went back, and please let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong, or fill in my gaps, but I believe J.R.R. Tolkien went back to The Hobbit after writing and releasing Lord of the Rings to slightly tie them together. But since the studio knew that The Hobbit is a precursor to a Lord of the Rings, they kind of wanted what Star Wars did. They wanted a prequel trilogy. And so, from what I know, Peter Jackson had to add in a ton that is not in the book of The Hobbit. I'm not sure how much he pulled from Tolkien's world and how much he had to improvise, but I do know the studio laid it on him to ensure that you could watch The Hobbit and then watch Lord of the Rings almost seamlessly. And that's why this movie starts out the way it does. Now, to my knowledge, the book The Hobbit starts out with Bilbo narrating and beginning his tale from when he left the Shire. They do that in the film. It leads into the beginning of The Hobbit. And part of that beginning is Bilbo just sitting in his front yard, smoking his pipe, and he's met by Gandalf, and he says good morning to him. Me not being a morning person, I don't ever really say good morning. I've said it a few times. But Gandalf's response, if I could ever memorize it, I would love to answer each and every time with this response. What do you mean? Do you wish me a good morning, or mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not, or that you feel good this morning, or that it is a morning to be good on? Maybe one of these days I'll devote like an hour or two to memorize it so I can start answering people that way. So with that introduction to Gandalf, Bilbo starts his character arc from here, and it's an awesome character arc. Even though it's supposed to take place over the 3 films and over the course of the book, you see him change throughout this film. In the beginning, he doesn't want any part to do with any outsiders. He just wants to mind his own business and enjoy his life in the Shire. Gandalf is trying to proposition him to go on an adventure, and Bilbo is like, nope, sorry, not interested. And Gandalf leaves, but not before he leaves a mark on Bilbo's door. A mark so that the dwarves know which house to go to and meet Gandalf at. Now, the dwarves are important to this story because they lost their home, Erebor. I do know that Tolkien is the grandfather of modern fantasy. What's known about dwarves largely comes from his mythos. Dwarves live underground mostly. This particular dwarven kingdom is located inside of the Lonely Mountain, and its name is Erebor. And dwarves are miners, and the king at the time mined so much gold that it attracted the dragon Smaug, who took over their kingdom. And since then, the dwarves have been homeless, and all they wanted was to go back. And they tried to go back, fought a group of orcs led by the pale orc, Azog. And there's just a beef between Azog and Thorin, who is the heir to the throne. That's all going into the story because I really do love this first movie. As I mentioned in the beginning, I only saw these movies once. I make it a habit of once a year watching the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. It's only in the last month or so where I've finally gotten a copy of the Extended Edition of The Hobbit. I've been meaning to for a while, but I haven't rewatched it at all. So I can't really go based off my memory because these movies came out over 10 years ago. So watching it again, and watching an extended edition, I really did enjoy myself. It's Peter Jackson. He knows how to make a movie look gorgeous. In real life landscape, shooting in New Zealand, which is Middle Earth in real life now. It just is. Using all range of effects. Practical, miniatures, CGI. He does it all. Bringing it all together to the world that Tolkien created. And it helps having the stellar cast that I read off. Bringing you along for this unexpected journey. Since it has been such a long time since I've seen a theatrical release, I can't really say what's been added. I think it's about a half hour's worth of more footage. With that said, I really didn't notice the runtime because I was enjoying myself so much. Although I do know, at least from what I can remember, again, please correct me or fill in my gaps in the comments below, Radagast the Brown is a wizard that's in this movie. But from what I'm told, he's not in The Hobbit. I think he was brought in to tie in everything to Lord of the Rings, because he plays a role in that regard. And I'm not sure, but there is a meeting of Gandalf, Galadriel, Elrond, and Saruman. They talk about the fate of Middle-earth. So I'll leave it there, and I'll hold off on giving a final rating until we get to the end of The Hobbit. Those are my thoughts on The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. Let me know your thoughts in the comment below. Thank you for watching, and live your imagination.